Do you think you know Mike Tyson? The greatest fighter of all time, a man with a terrifying presence both inside and outside the ring. But what lies behind the iron gloves and the iconic smile? In this video, I'm taking you beyond the boxing legend. We're going to explore shocking facts about Tyson, uncovering dark details, controversial crimes, and the wild stories that shaped his path. Get ready, because some of these stories will leave you speechless. Why should you watch until the end? Simple, Tyson is not just a sports icon but an enigma who defied all expectations. Discover what led him from champion to criminal, understand how a life of extreme glory and downfall connects to realities you might be living or witnessing. Want to know how a man so powerful ended up facing the worst consequences of his choices? Want to learn lessons about impulsivity, fame, and downfall that could be valuable in your life? So tell me, how many times have you felt that the line between success and destruction was too thin? Mike Tyson lived on the edge and paid dearly for it. If you're ready to know the truth behind the brutality, the vulnerability, and the chaos surrounding this champion, stick with me. What you'll discover today might change the way you view the rise and fall of any idol. 1. The knockout that almost ended in tragedy. It was one of those nights everyone knew would make headlines. Mike Tyson, the beast of the ring, was radiating destructive energy, ready to make history, and trust me, it wasn't just in the sport. The stadium was packed with fans screaming until they lost their voices as Tyson stepped into the ring with that predator-like glare, hunting his prey. On the other side stood Trevor Berbick, a brave and seasoned fighter, but his face showed he knew he was in deep trouble. The first rounds were a fierce battle, with Tyson dominating and Berbick trying to survive. The tension was palpable, but everything went downhill in the third round. Tyson unleashed a punch with a fury that seemed straight out of a horror film, and Berbick fell like a rag doll, unable to react. The stadium went silent for a moment. All you could hear was Tyson's heavy breathing, like a wild beast in a frenzy. But the problem wasn't just the punch. What turned the fight into a near crime was what happened next. The referee rushed in to intervene, but Tyson was out of control, his eyes locked on Berbick, who lay collapsed and defenseless, as if Tyson still wanted to finish him. He lunged forward, ignoring all the rules and attempts to stop him. With clenched fists, Tyson threatened to strike again, even though Berbick was unconscious and vulnerable. Trainers and security rushed into the ring to try to contain the beast, but the scene was nightmarish. Tyson pushed anyone who came close, shouting and acting like the instinct to fight had taken over everything. Panic gripped the crowd. Parents pulled their children away, and journalists started filming as if covering an urban act of violence. Berbick was carried out on a stretcher, with paramedics trying to revive him. Meanwhile, the police arrived, ready to handle a situation that had stopped being a sporting event. The line between sport and crime had been crossed, and everyone knew it. What should have been a fight turned into an almost criminal scene, with Tyson at the center of the chaos. From that night on, it was clear, the ring was not just a stage for victories. It was a place where Tyson's violence could explode in terrifying ways. 2. The night boxing turned to chaos. It was another night full of anticipation, the kind only a Mike Tyson event could generate. The city was buzzing, everyone tuned in, from crowded bars full of fans to the packed bleachers. Tyson was there, wilder than ever, and the crowd was electrified with a mix of fascination and fear. The opponent? Mitch Green, a guy who wasn't easily intimidated but had no idea what he was in for. The first rounds were a roller coaster of adrenaline. Mitch held on, trying not to let Tyson find his rhythm, but the sound of Tyson's punches was terrifying. Each hit seemed to resonate even in the last rows. But Green was tough, which started to frustrate Tyson. And when Tyson got frustrated, it turned into a nightmare. In the sixth round, Tyson unleashed a brutal combo that sent Green crashing to the floor, dizzy, but it wasn't enough for Tyson. He wanted more. When Green got back up, Tyson continued to rain down heavy blows, even after the referee tried to intervene. The crowd, which had come to see violence, began to realize things were going too far. The excitement turned into nervous glances. Then came the spark that set things off outside the ring. After the fight, the tension lingered. Mitch Green, furious and in pain, stormed out of the arena cursing Tyson, and what should have been a simple exchange of insults quickly escalated. In the parking lot, surrounded by fans, reporters, and security, the situation exploded. Green lunged at Tyson, and what followed was practically an urban brawl. Tyson, still in untamed beast mode, went at Green like the fight had never ended. Punches flew with such force that the dry sound of impacts could be heard, like bones about to snap. People screamed, fans backed away to avoid being hit, and security struggled to separate the two giants. The chaos was so intense that even the reporters, used to tense scenes, were shocked by the brutality. The fight left Green with an eye so swollen it looked like a baseball, and Tyson walked away like a storm that left destruction in its path. When the police arrived, the parking lot was a mess, as if a real crime had just happened. The media, of course, didn't miss the chance to turn the incident into scandalous headlines. Tyson was no longer just the champion of the ring, he was becoming a legend of violence beyond all limits. That night marked another chapter where the line between sport and crime was completely blurred. Tyson wasn't just a boxer, he was a storm, ready to turn into a disaster at any moment. And so, Mike Tyson's legacy of violence kept growing, ever harder to contain. 3. The bite that shocked the world. If there's one story everyone remembers about Mike Tyson, it's the infamous ear bite. But if you think it was just another crazy moment in sports, you're underestimating what happened. It was 1997, and Tyson was facing Evander Holyfield, the man who had already tarnished Tyson's reputation once. This time, Tyson entered the ring with a look that promised revenge at any cost. But no one, not even in their wildest nightmare, could have predicted what was coming. The crowd was wild, the stadium packed, everyone waiting for Tyson to reclaim his terror crown. Holyfield, known for his defensive wall, was schooling Tyson, frustrating him more with each passing minute. And Tyson, when frustrated, is like a powder keg ready to blow. In the third round, that's exactly what happened. Out of nowhere, in the middle of a clinch, Tyson did the unthinkable, he bit Holyfield's ear. And it wasn't just a nibble. Tyson sank his teeth in so hard that he tore off a chunk of Holyfield's ear. Blood started to flow, and Holyfield jumped back in pain, almost in disbelief at what had happened. The audience, who had been ecstatic, fell silent for a moment, as if everyone was trying to process, was that an assault or what? What should have been a fight turned into a true horror show. The referee, completely at a loss, looked at Holyfield bleeding and at Tyson, who seemed like a caged beast, still holding a piece of the ear between his teeth. Holyfield tried to stay composed, but the damage was done, and the ring, meant to be a place of competition, now looked like a scene from a brutal crime. The crowd erupted into shouts and curses. Some people were terrified, while others rushed toward the exits, thinking the chaos might get worse. The police, stationed there to keep order, braced for action, because the situation had gone from sports to something much darker. Tyson didn't just break the rules, he crossed a line that made everyone question if it was a criminal act. And the media, of course, pounced. Headlines worldwide described the scene as a live near crime. Some called for Tyson's arrest, others labeled it an act of attempted mutilation. That bite wasn't just a desperate moment, it was an incident that tainted boxing history and made Tyson a symbol of uncontrollable violence. In the end, Tyson's disqualification was the least of it. The psychological impact of that attack haunted Holyfield for a long time, and Tyson's legacy became even darker. At that moment, the ring was no longer just a place for fights, it was an arena where Tyson's savage instinct almost turned into a police matter. 4. The hotel scuffle and the street fight. You think Mike Tyson only caused trouble in the ring? Not even close. Chaos followed him wherever he went, and this story is a classic example of how things always spiraled out of control around him. It was supposed to be an ordinary night, or at least it should have been, when Tyson got involved in one of his most chaotic episodes away from the boxing spotlight. After a fight in New York, Tyson was staying at a luxury hotel, enjoying what should have been a quiet evening. But nothing about Mike Tyson was ever quiet. Mitch Green, the same opponent he had faced in the ring before, decided to show up out of nowhere. Green's ego was bruised from his loss to Tyson, and his anger hadn't cooled. He wanted a piece of Tyson, and confronting him in person seemed like the best idea he had. Bad plan. The two started arguing right there in the hotel lobby. The tension was so thick you could feel it. But Tyson wasn't the type to argue for long, he solved things with his fists. And that's exactly what happened. Before anyone could step in, Tyson lunged at Green with a speed and force no one expected. The scuffle erupted, and suddenly, the lobby of a fancy hotel became an improvised boxing ring. Green, out of shape and with no chance of winning, tried to fight back, but Tyson was a wrecking machine. Punches flew, security scrambled, guests hid behind columns and sofas, and the sound of breaking glass echoed through the halls. It was a real-time crime scene, with Tyson dominating every second of the brawl. When the police finally arrived, Green's face was so swollen it looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Tyson. He was taken in for questioning but walked out with the same swagger as if he'd just won another fight in the ring. The headlines were brutal, and the event became a bizarre story blending celebrity, violence, and crime. For many, that brawl wasn't just a case of assault, it was proof that Mike Tyson was a ticking time bomb, ready to explode anywhere he went. And what should have been a moment outside the ring turned into yet another scandal that only enhanced his reputation as a dangerous fighter, inside and outside the ropes. 5. The fight that led to jail. Mike Tyson's career was always full of ups and downs, but this story shows just how uncontrollable he could be. This time, the fight wasn't just an exhibition of power in the ring, it was the turning point that made Tyson face consequences he couldn't just knock out. It was a fight night in Las Vegas, and everyone knew Tyson had blood in his eyes. His opponent was Frank Bruno, a British fighter known for his courage but who knew he was facing the most explosive man on earth. The arena was packed, the crowd roared, and the bets were flying. Tyson, with the look of a predator, entered the ring radiating pure fury. And when the fight began, it was like an earthquake had hit. Tyson held nothing back. He came at Bruno with brutal intensity, landing punches that felt like hammer blows. Bruno tried to defend himself, but Tyson's dominance was overwhelming. The referee had to intervene several times, warning Tyson about illegal hits, but it seemed impossible. Tyson was out of control, and any boxing rule felt insignificant in the face of his rage. The crowd was split between being fascinated by the violent spectacle and terrified something serious might happen. But what truly made this fight memorable wasn't just what happened in the ring, but what followed. Still filled with adrenaline and anger, Tyson didn't handle the end of the fight well, even after winning. Backstage, he got into a brawl with a group of security guards who tried to restrain him. It was absolute chaos. Tyson floored one of the men with a punch that echoed through the halls, and things only got worse. The security tried to contain him, but Tyson fought back as if defending his life. The police were called urgently, and when they arrived, they found a scene of destruction. Broken TV equipment, overturned chairs, and people still in shock. There was no way around it. Tyson was arrested, and images of him being handcuffed made every newscast. It symbolized that, for the first time, the uncontrollable champion had crossed a line even his fame couldn't shield him from. The headlines were unforgiving. Tyson, the champion behind bars, became a top story, and experts debated how much of a danger he was not just in the ring but to society. Tyson didn't just win the fight against Bruno, he gained a new enemy, the justice system. It was a bitter reminder that sometimes the price of fury is higher than any championship belt. 6. The scandal that split the media. After so many controversial episodes, it seemed Mike Tyson's career was always teetering on the edge of a new scandal. But this one was a moment that truly divided the sports world and made headlines everywhere. The fight at the center of this drama wasn't just a title bout but an event that exposed the darkest side of boxing. It was a night full of expectations. Tyson was back in the ring, facing a challenger who came ready for battle, and the tension was palpable. The stadium was lit like a spectacle, with celebrities in the front rows and cameras capturing every move. Tyson, once again with that predator's stare, started the fight with a force that seemed impossible to contain. His opponent, determined but clearly intimidated, did his best to defend himself, but Tyson was a storm of punches. Only what should have been a regular fight turned ugly fast. Frustrated that he couldn't land the knockout he wanted, Tyson resorted to tactics that went far beyond the rules. Low blows, elbows, and an aggression that made the referee pause the match several times. The crowd began to stir, sensing that something major was about to happen. And it didn't take long. Tyson's opponent fell, but not just from the punches. He claimed Tyson attacked him illegally, and the fight didn't end there. Backstage, the opponent's team threatened to sue Tyson, and chaos ensued. The media quickly split. Some defended Tyson, arguing that it was all part of boxing, while others demanded harsher penalties, calling it unchecked violence. Sports programs spent days debating Tyson's behavior, and experts were interviewed about whether he should be banned from the sport. Headlines used words like disgrace and scandal, and the public found themselves caught in a war of opinions. Tyson, for his part, seemed unbothered. He defended himself, saying it was all part of the game, but the accusations of breaking the rules were getting harder to dismiss. The scandal didn't just shake the boxing world but made people question how far someone like Tyson could go before facing real consequences. And so, Tyson's aura of invincibility grew even more tarnished, making it clear he wasn't just a knockout machine but also a magnet for controversies nobody could ignore. 7. The final round and criminal connections. Approaching the end of Mike Tyson's career, it seemed the chaos that followed him wasn't going away anytime soon. If his past stories were about violence in the ring, now rumors were emerging of something far darker, ties to the criminal underworld. This final story proves that Tyson wasn't just a boxer, he was part of something much more complicated. It all started with a charity event in Las Vegas. It seemed like a quiet night, full of glamour, with celebrities and flashes everywhere, and Tyson trying to show a more good guy side. But everyone knew the atmosphere was off. Rumors swirled about Tyson's dangerous connections, and things were about to heat up fast. In the middle of the event, whispers about illegal gambling and money laundering started circulating. Businessmen exchanged suspicious glances, influential people moved nervously around the room, and some guests were there for more than good intentions. Tyson, trying to keep a calm demeanor, couldn't hide his discomfort. His jaw was clenched, and his eyes darted around as if expecting something to blow up at any moment. And it did. The tension spiked when journalists, sensing a scandal, started digging deeper. Tyson, already at his breaking point, became visibly agitated, and the event turned into a bizarre scene of pure tension. What was supposed to be a party felt like a powder keg about to go off. People stepped back, others whispered, and it became a circus of gossip and speculation. The climax came when the police showed up later, adding an even heavier vibe. People ran, and some of the suited men clearly felt very uncomfortable. Everyone whispered about Tyson being involved with some serious players, and the way things were, it was hard to separate the fighter from the legend and the heavy drama. What was supposed to be the final round of Tyson's career became another episode of crime and mystery. The man wasn't just a boxing icon but a character surrounded by stories that left everyone on edge. And so, he remained that complicated enigma, with a path marked by victories and numerous scandals. A fighter who never settled for just being another champion. He was a force of nature, someone who took everything to the extreme, in and out of the ring. From fights that nearly turned into crimes to dark tales of brawls, scandals, and shady connections, Tyson was always at the center of chaos. What's fascinating, in the end, is how the line between sport and real violence was never so thin as with him. Each knockout, each explosion of rage, left the world divided. Was it pure greatness or a demonstration of uncontrollable destruction? Tyson was an icon and, at the same time, a mystery. Even as the brilliance of his sport began to fade, the stories about him remained alive, turning into legends that transcend boxing. In the end, Mike Tyson showed us that sometimes a champion's greatest opponent isn't another fighter but himself. A constant battle between glory and inner demons, with the world watching, both fascinated and horrified. And the question remains, what really defines a champion? The victories or what he does when the spotlight goes out? Tyson is and always will be one of the most memorable names in history, for all the right and wrong reasons. And maybe that's his essence, a blend of greatness and chaos, impossible to forget.